Despite the fact that I do kind of like Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, and I've grown to very much like Salvation, to me, the franchise and indeed the story of the Terminator universe was really fully complete with the original ending of the second film, Judgment Day. And I wish James Cameron had have stuck with that happy ending. But prior to the heights of the second film, the first movie, The Terminator, was released in 1984 and was an enormous box office success. From a tiny budget of $6.4 million, which wasn't very much even at the time, it made $78 million. What I really like about this movie is how incredibly atmospheric it is, and how essentially it's more of a horror slasher movie, but with sci-fi futuristic elements to it. While Terminator 2 feels very much like a 90s sci-fi movie, including its tone, sophisticated special effects, and pacing, The Terminator is a distinctly quintessential 1980s dystopian sci-fi movie, very much in the vein of Alien, Aliens, Blade Runner, RoboCop, that sort of thing. The heavy use of synthesizers in the music, the sound design, the cinematography, and the fact that so much of the film was shot at night. It's from that era of dark sci-fi cinema, and it's one of the things I love about the film. It's a style that you can try to replicate, but it's impossible to do it authentically. Of course, the basic format of the story became the template for future Terminator movies. The war with Skynet in the future and the machines, a cyborg Terminator sent back in time to kill the resistance leader John Connor. In this film, of course, the intention is to kill him before he's born by targeting his mother, Sarah. But a lone hero also comes back to intercept the cyborg and stop him, Kyle Reese. In this film, Arnold Schwarzenegger plays the villain, of course, though in future films he would always be the protagonist. Now, the film was not without its controversies. The famous sci-fi writer Harlan Ellison had accused the filmmakers of plagiarism, citing two stories he wrote for the Outer Limits TV series, one called Soldier and another called Demon with a Glass Hand. Now, to be fair, there are some similarities between these two stories and The Terminator, but I don't think there was enough there to warrant a serious charge of plagiarism, but I'm not a legal expert on such matters. Regardless, there was an agreed settlement, and future releases of the film had to include the end credit, acknowledgement to the works of Harlan Ellison. Anyway, there really hadn't been a sci-fi movie quite like this at the time. One that incorporated time travel, big futuristic action scenes, cyborgs, and then throw in a love story between Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor. It's dark and gritty, but still ends on a note of cautious hope, but still with a feeling that maybe the war with the machines isn't over. There's the clever time paradox that Kyle Reese was sent back to protect Sarah, because she's the mother of the future savior of mankind, John Connor, obviously. But by going back in time, Kyle ends up getting her pregnant, and this is so that John was conceived. So if he hadn't gone back, John would never have been born. So this was basically a predestination paradox. Looking back, the action scenes are extremely well done for the time. There's also some simple animatronics and puppetry that's used in places for the T-800, in particular when he's damaged and he's looking in the mirror, for example. At the time, audiences were probably a bit more forgiving of this kind of thing, but now it kind of takes you out of the moment. But I think at that time during the 80s, there's a kind of earnestness and respectability to how creative, clever and resourceful the filmmakers and special effects people had to be in order to achieve such a shot using only practical techniques. So there was no CGI used in this film. And the same goes for the stop-motion effects used for the Terminator endoskeleton when it's walking in the end action sequence. It does date the film a bit, but in kind of an endearing way, in my opinion. It's actually become iconic, and because it's so unnatural in its movement, it kind of makes the cyborg even more creepy. Of course, it goes without saying that this film really launched Arnold Schwarzenegger's career into superstardom. And I have to say as well, Linda Hamilton delivers such a varied performance, from sweet, innocent waitress to this tortured, frightened woman who has to discover a new inner strength and courage. Very multi-layered, a lot of depth there. Michael Biehn is just so intense and hardcore in this movie, contributing so much to the sense of stakes, the terror, and the sense of foreboding in the film. A man deeply troubled, deeply traumatized by the war, who knows the truth about what's coming and knows that none of the relative freedom and prosperity of life in 1984 is going to last. The dark, dystopian future he comes from, depicted in beautiful contrast to the colourful 1984, he knows all of this is going to come to an end. He provides such a huge juxtaposition to the innocence of the time, and indeed Sarah, whose world is utterly shattered and she's forced to grapple with her important place in human history. Terminator 2 Judgment Day took the core elements of the Terminator and improved upon them by making the new T-800 a protagonist, giving Arnold Schwarzenegger a lot more to do, and also making the Terminator a kind of father figure to John Connor. Instead of being the hunter and killer, he's reprogrammed by the Resistance to be the protector of John Connor. T2 is very much a technical and cinematic improvement in every regard. But I think that overall, the Terminator boasted a darkness and a sense of terror and dread that was never really recaptured again in any of the subsequent Terminator movies in the series. And I think as well, to reiterate, it was helped enormously by the fact that the film is a product of that classic 1980s dystopian sci-fi movie era. It is, simply put, just an absolutely superb sci-fi movie. So thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.